and welcome to another FasTrax webinar. In this webinar, we're going to go over totes and creating labels in the warehouse. Webinars are weekly events that are held on Fridays at 9 a.m. Central and Eastern. To get to the webinars, you can just go to our webpage at goftx.com, go over to the FTx Lifeline. If you'll scroll about halfway down the page, you get to webinars. From here, you can view previous webinars. You can register for upcoming webinars. And there's also an option to subscribe so you'll get notified of upcoming webinars and other FasTrax news. So let's get started with totes in the warehouse. A tote is basically going to be a reusable box that when you're picking orders, you're putting the merchandise into this tote that you're going to ship out to the location. And then once they receive that, they'll unload it and then they'll send the tote back to you. So to get to totes, what we want to do is we will go to maintenance. In maintenance, we will go to the totes, which is about in the middle of the screen. All right. Inside the totes tab here, you can see we have serial numbers, we have a status, and a location. As you can see, I've already created one with the serial of 001. So basically, to add your totes, what you would do is you would come down and tell it to add tote. Serial number is going to be whatever numbers you decide to use. Doesn't matter how long or short they are. In this case, I'm using 3 digits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my second tote, 002. I'm just going to hit Save Tote. Now it's been added. As you can see, it shows the status as being in, and my location is in the warehouse. If this tote has been used for an order and has been sent out to that location, your status will actually change to out, and the location will be whatever the account number is for that warehouse or for that location that it went to. Okay, I can also come down here and I can do a print labels. This will actually print a label that I can put onto that tote where I can scan it. Make it a little bit easier to assign those to orders as I'm doing them. And we'll go over creating labels here in just a few moments. Another option that I have here is I can actually print a tote report. I can do totes that are in, out, or both. And all this is it's going to give you a list of your totes, where they're at. Just to run, and we'll move this to this screen for you. As you see, it shows you your tote ID. This is basically just going to be the order that they were added into the system, but here's your serial number, and it tells us that it is in. And it tells us here that it's in the warehouse. After we do an order in a moment and assign a tote to a location, we'll run this report again. So the way that you assign totes is going to be when you're picking an order. That's going to be using the Android handheld. And let me get that pulled up. So we're in the warehouse handheld here. What we want to do is we want to go to guided pick. but it finds one order here. I'll click on it. Ask me if I want to continue. So I'm going to tell it yes. And I just go through and I pick my items. So the first thing I want to do though is, since I'm going to use a tote for this, I want to come up here to this box icon. As you can see right now, it says there's no box available. Box is essentially a tote in the handheld. So I'm going to click on the box icon. It tells me there's no boxes found. If I have a barcode that I can scan, I can just scan that. But I'm actually just going to search for one. And I want to put in my 001. And now you can see my box 001. So I'm just going to continue to pick. Ask me if I want to manifest. I don't need one on this order. It's going to tell me after marking orders picked, I won't be able to pick any more items. I'm just going to tell it yes, that I want to continue. So now, we go back and refresh our totes module here. All right, now you can see that 001 is now out, and it tells me my location is Alabama store number 1. So if I come down here to the bottom now and do print tote report, so it tells me in the warehouse 002 is in, then Alabama store 1, tote 001 is out at that location. The next thing we want to cover today in the webinar is going to be designing labels. So in order to do that, we actually use I have a Zebra printer, so I'm using the Zebra designer. I'm using number 2. So basically what you do is you tell it that you're going to do a new one. Select your printer. The stock type can just be none. I can go to the next page. It's automatically set from the label, or you can edit yourself. This is going to be your width and height of the label. Ask if you want it to be portrait or landscape. As you can see, it changes on the layout here. And you can change which direction it comes out of the printer. And again, it just goes over the dimensions of the label here. Same as what I had previously. I'm going to tell it to finish. And from here, we can just go in and customize the label. So if I want to do a barcode, click on barcode. I can put anything in here that I would need to. Tell it to finish. Actually, I'll have to have something in. Let me open up the label that I've already done. So I've got 2 different ones here. Let's first do the one I've got called warehouse label. Alright, so you can see I've got barcode here, and if I double click on this, the way this is set up is I've got two @ symbols, and I've got an item UPC, and then two @ symbols. My barcode type is a code 128. What this does is this will print out the barcode, and it actually puts the item UPC underneath it. So say if my UPC was 1, 2, 3, 4, I would have the barcode, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 would be below it. This next one here where it says item description, this is just text. It's laid out pretty much the same way. This is fixed text, and it's @ item description, and then two more @ symbols. You can change the font if you like. I think I have it in just as default. This is label 1. It's kind of a basic, gives me the UPC, the barcode, and a description. I have an item that has a longer description on it. So I believe the software has a limitation of, I want to say it's 20, 21 characters is all that it'll give in a line on the description. So if you have something that's got a longer description on it and need an extra line, I actually have another label here that's called 2-line description. So as you see with this one, it is set up the same way. I have my barcode with my item UPC. I have my item description. But to get that second line of description, I do item description with the number 2 behind it. This will basically do a wraparound. It'll go as far as it can with this line, and then it'll wrap to this line to finish out the description. And to give you an example of what those look like, so the top one here and the middle one, both of these are the 2-line description. So as you can see, I have a barcode along with my UPC and then my description. So the Winston box here is a shorter description, but since I use the 2-line, you can see there's a little bit more space at the bottom here. The Jack Daniels here, because it's a longer description, it wraps around and comes to the second line. The bottom one here, this one is the first label we looked at. It's just one item description. So as you can see, my barcode's a little bit bigger. I still have my UPC, and my description's a little bit bigger because I have more room to work with just one description. All right, so we talked earlier about we could print labels for our totes. So in totes here, I guess let me back up just a moment. We have these labels here that we created. Next thing we want to do is actually get this into the warehouse software so we can actually use it. What we want to do is we actually want to open one of these up. Let's do the 2-line description. The way we want to save this in order to be able to get this to import into the warehouse software is I want to come up here and hit File, and then I tell it I want to print. Now this gives me the option to just print it to the label maker or the printer itself. What I want to do is actually print to file. I tell it to print. It's going to ask me what the file name is, where do I want to put it. Save it. Now you can see I have a 2-line description PRN file. So what I'll do here is I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to edit it with Notepad++. You can use just Notepad would work just as fine. And we get a file that looks like this. So what I want to do is I actually want to copy this. And within Warehouse, we go to Settings, and down to Support Utilities. We have an option for Zebra label formats. So I want to tell it that I want to do a new label format. I'm just going to name this WH 2-line. I'm going to paste that code into here, and I'm going to tell it to save. So actually, I've already got this one in here. Once we get our format into the software, we can then go back and actually go to Totes. And I want to print a label for my totes. So go to Print Labels. It's going to ask me which ones I want to do. Then I would tell it what label that I want to use. So if I wanted to use the 2-line, I can use it. And I would tell it what printer I'm going to use, and I would just hit print. We actually use that same logic in printing labels for items. So for example, if I wanted to bring up an item, I can print a label for it as well. If I bring up the Winston box here, I can come to print barcode. And here's going to give me some options. Do I want to do the primary item itself? Do I want to use the UPC for the item? This one has multiple UPC, so I could use either UPC that I wanted. If you have an item package set up, you can actually use the UPC for the item package as well, which would be like a pack of cigarettes as opposed to the carton. And again, I can choose my format, and of course my printer, and how many I wanted to print. Click print, and then that'll go out to the printer, and I'll have a label for that item. There is an option to be able to print multiple labels at one time. If we go to Reports, we'll stay under List Reports, and we'll go to Item List. From here, we would change the report type to mass print labels. Then we have the option we can show all items, or we can actually filter. So if you only have a select few items that you want to do, you can do it by item. Find the item by typing in the item number, description, your UPC number. And it adds it. And you'd keep going until you got all the items that you wanted to print a label for. Once you do that, you would just come up here and tell it to print. And again, there's many options that we can can filter the report by. If you wanted to print out all the labels for the major categories, tell it which category you want to do, and it would print out all labels for anything that's in that particular category. All right, so that pretty much covers totes and making labels in Warehouse. I hope you learned something today. And again, just as a reminder, our weekly webinars are Friday, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern. And again, if you just go to our website at FTx.com, go to Lifeline, and scroll halfway down the page, you can get to the webinar section where you can sign up for the newsletter, you can view previous webinars, and also register for upcoming webinars. That concludes today's webinar. Again, I hope you learned something today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and have a good weekend. Thank you.